This is lesson 86 in Saxon's 3rd edition, Algebra 1. This lesson is on division of polynomials. Now, this is one that's going to look kind of intimidating, but don't let it intimidate you. If you know the process of long division, you're going to be just fine because it's the very same process. All right, so follow with me as we get started. Okay, in our first example, we have 12x to the 12th minus 8x to the 8th plus 4x to the 6th, and we're going to divide each one of those by 4x to the 4th. Now remember that our rule says that when we are dividing exponents, you're really adding, subtracting, okay? So when we divide 12 by 4, we get 3. And if we move this 4 up, it becomes negative 4. So 12 minus 4 is 8. Then we divide 8 by 4, we get 2. Same thing, we subtract the 4 from the 8, we get x to the 4th. And here, 4 divided by 4 is 1, so we can put the 1 or we don't have to put the 1, either one. And then we're left with x to the second. So you divide and then you reduce each term. Alright, so following this process, this is the first thing, in long division, the first thing you do is divide. Alright, so 2x into 14x to the 4th. 2 will go into 14 7 times, and x times what will be x to the 4th? Well, it's x to the 3rd. So we write down here 14x to the 4th, and we subtract, or let's say we're going to change the sign, okay? Because that's what we would subtract here. All right. Then we have to come back to this negative 1, and we have to say 7x to the 3rd times negative 1, because we multiplied this by this and got this. Then we multiply this by the negative 1, and we get negative 7x cubed. But then remember what I said, you have to change this sign. So now this won't be negative, it'll be positive 7. So when we do the addition and subtraction, we'll have 2x to the 3rd left over. Now the next step in long division is to bring down the next term. So that's what we're going to do. And then you just simply start the process all over again. You divide 2x times what will be 2x to the 3rd. Okay, let's go to the next frame and we'll see more worked out. Alright, so here's where we were, and x squared times 2x will give us 2x to the 3rd, and then x squared times negative 1 gives us negative 1x squared. But then, like I said, we're subtracting, so when we subtract this, you change the sign from positive to negative. When we subtract negative, we're actually adding a positive, so negative 11 and positive 1 gives us negative 10x squared. Once you've done your subtraction, you simply start all over again. You divide. How many times will 2 go into 10? It will go 5 times, and this is negative, so it's negative 5. And then x times x would give us this x squared. And then we have to say negative 5x times negative 1. Well, that's going to be positive 5x. And we've brought this next term down so that we have something to line up here. And that's going to be very important. We'll talk more about that in a minute. All right, so this is changing the sign. So that would be a plus, and this would be a minus. When you've done your addition subtraction, you will have negative 16x. You're going to bring down this last term. You're going to do the division all over again and multiplication, and here we have 0, so we have no remainders. Okay, this is a problem from your book that you can look along and follow along with. Here again, we're going to go through the same process. X times what is 3x cubed. Well, x times 3 is 3. X squared times x is x cubed. Then we're going to say 3x squared times this negative 3. And we're going to get negative 9x squared. But then we changed the sign. You see, it was negative. Now it's positive 9x squared. Then we do our subtraction. We get 7x squared, bring down the next term, start all over again. What x times what is 7x squared? 7x. So then you multiply. You've divided. Now you multiply. 7x times x is 7x squared. 7x times negative 3 is negative 21x. So we're going to change both these signs. We get rid of this. We add these. We get 26x. Then you start your process all over again. X times what is 26x? 26. Now you multiply. You get 26x. 26 times negative 3 is negative 78. We change the sign of both. We add. We've brought down this 50. We add 128 as our remainder, so we write it as a fraction, 128 over x minus 3. That's really all there is to this. Okay, here's another example. X times what is 2x cubed? 2x squared. We've divided, now we multiply. 2x squared times x is 2x cubed. Change that sign. 2x squared times negative 2 is negative 4x. Change the sign. Now, we're going to bring down this next guy. We're going to start our process all over again. X will go into 3x squared how many times? It will go 3x. Now we're going to multiply. 3x times x is 3x squared. And we're going to change the sign. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x, but we've changed the sign so it's positive 6x. We do our subtraction, and then we bring down our last term. Then we divide again. 5 times x is 5x. So we put that there, subtract. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Change that sign, do the addition. Your remainder is 14 over x minus 2. Alright, here's one more, and this one has a very important step that you're going to have to add. I've highlighted it in red. If you start out with an x to the third term, you have to have an x to the second placeholder. Even if you don't have any x to the second, you have to put a 0x squared there. So you have to fill in all the blanks. If you start at 3, you've got to go 3, 2, 1. Okay? Now all we do is divide like we did. X times 3x squared is 3x cubed. And then we subtract. 3x squared times negative 3 is negative 9x squared, but we're going to change that sign, and it's 9x squared minus 2x because we bring down our next term. Then we divide again. X times what is 9x squared? It'll go 9x times. Now we multiply. 9x times x is 9x squared. We subtract. 9x times negative 3 is negative 27x. We subtract. We change that sign. Okay? Now we do our subtraction, and 27x minus 2x is 25x. We bring down our last term. We do it all again. We have a remainder of 80, which we write as 80 over x minus 3. This will not work, and I know that you're going to forget to do this. This will not work if you don't have placeholders for every single one. Just remember that. Alright, let's do our practice problems. Alright, x into 5x cubed minus 9x squared plus x. Alright, x times what? Actually, this one we could do like this. Because they all have that x in common. So we can just divide all of them by x. Divided by x. Alright, x times what is 5x cubed? 5x squared. X times what is negative 9x squared? Negative 9x. And x will go into x one time. So simple. Alright, in this one, you're going to need to look and see that these two are out of order. You have to make sure that you write them in the correct order. This also is out of order. It needs to be x plus 2 into 6x cubed minus 3x squared plus x minus 40. Now everything is in the right place and we can begin our division. X into 6x cubed is 6x squared. Now I multiply. 6x squared times x is 6x cubed. And I change that sign. 6x squared times 2 is 12x squared. And I'm going to make that a negative. Now I do my subtraction. These are gone. And I have negative 15x squared. Bring down the next term. Now we start all over again. We divide. X into negative 15x squared is negative 15x. Now I multiply. Negative 15x times x is negative 15x squared, but I change the sign so it's positive. Negative 15x times 2 is negative 30x, but we're going to change that sign. It's going to be positive 30x. Do our subtraction. We have 31x. Bring down this last term. Minus 40. Divide again. We have plus 31. 31x. Change the sign. 31 times 2 is 62. Change the sign. Our remainder is 102 over x plus 2. Alright, now here's one that we're going to need to put in some placeholders. Because we start with x cubed, then we're going to have to add plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 5. It's going to be very important that you do that. Then you start the process. X times x squared is x cubed. Multiply. Change that sign. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Change that sign. Do your subtraction. Bring down the next term. Start all over again. X times 2x is 2x squared. We'll change that sign. 2x times negative 2 is negative 4x. We're going to change it to positive. Do our subtraction and addition. 4x. Bring down our last term. Minus 5. X will go into 4x 4 times. When I multiply, I get 4x, and I change the sign. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, but I'm going to change the sign to positive. Do my subtraction, and I end up with 3 as a remainder, 3 over x minus 2. Alright, this will trip you up if you don't remember to add those placeholders. Very important. Alright, final one. X minus 4, 3x cubed But notice I don't have any x squared, so I'm going to put plus 0x squared minus 5x plus 4. X times 3x squared. Do my multiplication. I get 3x cubed. Change the sign. 3x squared times negative 4 is negative 12x squared. Change the sign. Do my subtraction. Bring down the next term. Now divide again. X into 12x squared goes 12x times. Multiply 12x times x is 12x squared. Change the sign. 12x times negative 4 is negative 48x. We're going to change that to positive. Do your subtraction. 43x. Bring down that last term. Divide again. X times 43 is 43x. Change the sign. 43 times negative 4 would be 172, negative 172. We're going to change it to positive 172. Subtract. 176 is our remainder. We write it as 176 over x minus 4. Good job. Don't be intimidated by this. Just follow the process. I'll see you next time for Lesson 87.